lest we forget. Welcome to Chillin Tuesday on ANZAC Day, 25th of April, 2023. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which I broadcast and the traditional custodians of the land right across this nation, called Australia, to acknowledge that a treaty is called for. Sovereignty has never been ceded, and to acknowledge the continuing connection to the land of the elders, past, present, and emerging, and to acknowledge the black wall to which there's never been a treaty. Well, I'm Thundercloud, and here tonight I've got a selection of poetry related to war, in particular World War I, about the ANZACs, written by ANZACs, written by myself. I'm going to be sharing them with you, and I'm going to start with a great Australian song by the great Scottish Australian writer and lyricist Eric Bogle of the Bushwhackers band, and the band played Waltzing Matilda. When I was a young man, I carried a pack, and I lived the free life of a rover. From Murray's green banks to the dusty outback, I waltzed my Matilda all over. Then in 1915, the country said, "Son, there's no time for roving, there's work to be done." And they gave me a tin hat and gave me a gun, and they sent me away to the war. And the band played Waltzing Matilda as our ship pulled away from the quay. And amidst all the cheers, the flag waving and tears, we sailed off for Gallipoli. How well I remember that terrible day when our blood stained the sand and the water, and how in the hell that they called Suvla Bay we were butchered like lambs to the slaughter. Johnny Turkey was waiting, he primed himself well. He showered us with bullets and rained us with hell. And in 10 minutes flat, he'd blown us to hell. Nearly blew us right back to Australia. And the band played Waltzing Matilda as we stopped to bury our slain. We buried ours and the Turks buried theirs. Then we started all over again. They collected the crippled, the wounded and maimed, and they shipped us back home to Australia. The armless, the legless, the blind and insane, all the brave wounded heroes of Suvla. And when our ship pulled into the Circular Quay, I looked at the place where my legs used to be, and I thanked Christ there was nobody waiting for me to grieve and to mourn and to pity. And the band played Waltzing Matilda as they carried us down the gangway. But nobody cheered, they just stood there and stared, and then turned their faces away. So now every April I sit on my porch and I watch the parade pass before me, and I see my old comrades, how proudly they march, relieving old dreams and past glories. But the old men march slowly, their bones stiff and sore. Tired old men from a tired old war. And the young people ask, what are they marching for? And I ask myself the same question. And the band played Waltzing Matilda, and the old men answer the call. But year by year, those old men disappear. Soon no one will march home. The band played Waltzing Matilda by Eric Bogle. I've got a few others here, other bits of poetry here that I've put together earlier tonight, which I seem to have lost in the meantime, but I do have books ready to go in the Seahorse Medicine Cafe, so we'll just go on down there, shall we? Sound like playing that. All right, well, yeah, that's one incredibly emotional song about, I guess, the effects of war on the individuals who fought war. Yeah, so here we go into the Seahorse Medicine Cafe, and I'm ready for the rest of Chillin Tuesday. Okay, let's just set this camera up. All right, and here I am ready to go. I've even got my cup of tea in here. I've got books ready to go. I got the light over here on my face. That's good, and here we are. Poetry for you. That's an incredibly emotional experience. Okay, well, May 2023, the Australian Bush Poets Associations put out their volume 29, number 2. Of their magazine, and just been reading through this, and I'm going to read out one written by Peter Fraser. This is a copyright poem by Peter Fraser, will you still remember us? Standing on a cliff face above a moonlight sea, I waited for the dawn to break upon Gallipoli, and in the pre-dawn stillness I said a silent prayer for all the fallen soldiers in wars fought everywhere. Suddenly a voice spoke and addressed himself to me. Cobber, can I stand with you till the sun does kiss the sea? I turned to see a young man, 23 or 24, dressed in faded khaki where no one stood before. He said his name was Frederick, but I should call him Fred. 'Twas all the same anyway, no matter what folks said. His distinctive Aussie accent came through strong and low, much the way my granddad spoke many years ago. He said he came from Queensland, from a place they call Paru, a land of sheep and cattle where the wattle blossom grew. He said, I've been away a while, a bit too long I fear. I suppose Aussie's changed a lot since I come over here. Tell me, does the wattle still bloom in the western spring? And have you smelt the gidgee smell that the coming storm doth bring? Do they still play tour when the copper's away? Oh, how I miss a nice cold beer at the closing of the day. We gather here each year, he said, and gestured with his hand, lest we forget. It's the reason we left our native land. And standing in the darkness to the left and right of me stood rows of khaki-clad soldiers all staring out to sea. From Flanders Field we come, he said, Dunkirk and Normandy, from Tobruk and Alamein to this Gallipoli. As he paused, a silent tear rolled down his sun-tanned cheek, and glistening eyes he turned to me and again began to speak. We fight for God and country, or so the billboards say, and how the crowds cheered us the day we sailed away. But the posters have long faded and the cheering crowds have too. Somehow we've stopped aging in the way men usually do. Will folks still remember us if we never do go home, or will we be forgotten, condemned to ever roam? As I struggled to reply, a single bugle blew and the sky began to glow with a dawning hue. For a moment I stood lost in time, over a century away, with those soldiers clad in khaki and the hounds of war did bay. And when at last I turned to speak, he'd vanished from sight. He and his fellow soldiers had faded with the night. But in his place a sea of poppies waved to meet the day, and as I held one in my palm I heard the soldier say, "We're the poppies to remember us, with their petals so blood red, and take a message to the bush for me. Say, g'day from Pa and friend." Yeah, I had an uncle called Fred, who Joe actually wrote. His name was Frederick O'Shea, who served in World War II and was interned, imprisoned, POW in France. Anyway, many years later, it turned out he had a daughter in France, along with his family in Australia, which he had when he got back. So how about that? I guess, yeah, the products of war are not always great. Childless, fatherless children, etc. Right, what have I got for you here? This is what I have got for you for tonight. Right, Fields of Amaranth and Other Poems by Clem Lacks. This was written in 1930, well, published in 1936. So I won't say when it was written, but it is a signed copy by Clem with compliments. Right. So yeah, I'll be reading some of these. The Fields of Amaranth, based on a quote, "They went as kings in a pageant to the imminent death. Cease fire!" Then heaven smiled and haggard men looked upward to the skies to glimpse the glory written there that death had hidden from their eyes. Holden from their eyes. Then anguished earth with travail torn seemed beautiful as so meadowland. In spring and scarred and naked trees like lovely blossoms an angel's hand had planted there to hide obscene and monstrous things that breed in hell, hatched out by a diplomat's note with the wine of a bursting shell. This ransomed soil shall bloom with beauty evermore. Their hallowed dust hath sanctified each shattered ridge, each riven slope, each blood-drenched crust of bare brown earth. Lo, from these fields of death the fruitful years shall reap rich harvest for the sons of unborn time, and flowering buds shall keep their tender trysting with the sun-kissed dawn. The joyous lark shall sing his anthem o'er their tomb, and calm and clear the angelus shall ring God's message to a world of peace, and time shall wipe away all tears and heal all wounds, and peace with brooding wings shall crown the everlasting years. With blessings for mankind are not in vain they died, 'tis in his hour. The tides of memory roll surging back, restless in their power. To quench the leaping fires of man's ignoble greed, the petty dreams that sway the minds of selfish men, then, like a vision splendid, gleams across the marge of crumbling faiths that oriflame of sacrifice, that fired the souls of men who loved the sun and reckoning not the price, gave which none could buy, and went to the imminent death like kings. O glorious gift of life to death, O love transcending earthly things, O flower of courage that bloomed in the muck, O amaranth sublime, that died unfading to its deathless end, sky reaching from the slime. Deathless flower, next one. This is Deathless Flower by Clem Lacks. ANZAC, that deathless name hath still an unquenched power to quicken hearts of men with a trumpet gust that echoes down the following years in that dread hour when Christ was crucified anew and war's red lust made mock of human hopes the amaranthine flower of courage blossomed from these pyres of mortal dust. Mailed in the splendour of their youth, they marched to death. Son, lovers who had found the life was sweet and fair. Paladins who laughed till the last swift choking breath, triumphant in the sacrifice that only they could share. So shall we keep alight through all the stealthy years the flame that is the symbol of our grief and pride, and these fadeless laurels watered by a nation's tears in hallowed memory shall everlastingly abide. The landing. The Landing by Clem Lacks. On that tremulous dawn, the sea mew left her nest and fled, with fearful wing, ere yet the Asiatic sun had shed his hot, hard flame upon the ramparts of the Chersonese that frowned in everlasting gloom above the lonely seas. A wild terrain and desolate, lashed by bitter gales, the stamping ground of Mars. 'Twas here that Agamemnon's sails, proud Ilium, saw in one bleak hour of vision doom. 'Twas here the satraps of Darius flung on Attica that hurling spear of flesh and blood, swift shattered on the plain of Marathon. Young Alexander passed that way with smooth-faced Myrmidon. With trumpet gusts of doom the Roman cohorts thundered past, and medieval chivalry spilled here its blood and treasure vast. But from the Southern Cross now came a greater race than these, who forged a nation with their blood, the proud Antipodes. They came from out the shearing shed and from the mustering track, from the clamorous city street, from the teammaster's shack, the golden wheatlands of the downs, the cane fields of the north, from the north and south, the east and west, wherever the word went forth. They came from where the Tasman glacier lifts its creviced brow. They left their smiling farms, the shop, the factory, and the plough. From the Leeuwin to Cape York, from the Arnhem to the Tweed, an army rose apace, for they were true to race and breed. They came from out the valiant west, out where the winds blow clean. In shining mail of youth they came, with laughing eyes so keen. And fearless they marched as a column of rippling spears into the Reich, the smoke and flame of those tragic tears. The myriad rifles sighed on those ranks so young and fair, that charged at dawn the day upon the heights of Sari Bear. The way of death they took as strikes the hawk unerring swift, a balaclava charge up through the thorns and brush and drift, of coiling battle wreck that writhed and struck at each brigade, that swept on like a wall as cool as they were on parade. Now all is still, silent the flaming forts of Kum Kale and Khalid Ba, no echoes wake beside that Aegean Sea. They sleep in columns deep, along the rugged heights they won, but heroes all, unconquered still, their gallant souls march on. No tears for them this day, no wailing. Threnody sung low, but Spartan proud, dry-eyed and calm, for they would have it so. They shall not die who taught men how to die. Eternity in theirs, this Anzac Day shall be their immortality. Death of an Anzac. By Clem Lacks. Ah, but the day was fair, the hour he died, with youth's high coronal in perfect flower, and life a beauteous thing of glowing dreams beneath an austral sun. But ah, these were not for him. There would he glimpse again the tumult of a morning sea, and feel the keen wet kiss of spindrift on his cheek, when like Apollo cast in bronze he rode the steaming mains of wild white cavalry, spume driven on the beach of beaten gold. Perchance, before his closing eyes there came a vision of a field of ripened wheat, shirred by the sighing wind with plangent spears, or broad savannas marching to the west, where sheep and kine are boundless empery. Proclaim, he sees the lordly guns he loved, with moonlight washed all silvery, and hears anew the rhapsody of feathered choirs, singing their madrigals at the break of day, and dreaming that he's a boy again. He romps with wind-blown hair the careless hours of summer holiday in love with life. Now, in this hour when death with wasteful hand hath spilled the blood of youth's high sacrifice upon the altars of dread Moloch's last, the pageantry of days forever gone, before his fading consciousness recedes, with all those future hopes and boyish dreams that he shall never know, on Leth's dark stream
like some tired child with heavy lidded eyes. He sinks to rest ere Azrael's trumpets sound, and mailed in his stainless chivalry and pride, his spirit soars beyond the reach of earthly doom to everlasting realms of light. Redemption by Clem Lacks. Far sweeter than a silver trumpet calling o'er a water still, or even at the joyous song of a murmuring brook. Swift tumbling o'er a waterfall there rose from Calvary Hill the last triumphant cry. 'Twas when then the sullen mountains shook and heaved their flanks as if some jungle creature writhed in pain, enspeared and hidden, hunted in a darkened forest cave. Then Israel's hallowed temple veil was rent in twain, and granite cliffs were shattered into shards, and wave on wave of awful terror whelmed the sounds of mortal men who fled with winging feet a place accursed. His quenchless spirit sped beyond the gates of earthly doom, he whom they crucified. "'Tis finished," cried, and leaning on the everlasting arms, he died. So fair that distant garden on the resurrection morn, a strange and timeless beauty seemed to linger everywhere. Beyond the ken of earthly dreams, a wistful memory born, God's dawn tossed joy upon a sleeping world, and on the air was wafted music of the birds that flitted in and out, the flowering twigs and boughs pearl-laden with a myriad beads of sparkling dew that snared the morning sun. Each tender sprout was bursting with the sap of life and struggling through the weeds. But Mary drooped beside the unsealed tomb. Her heart was dead. And lo, she swiftly turned and saw the Master standing there. "Mary," he said, and o'er her gloom eternal radiance shed, a glory she had never known, so great that she must share with unbelieving men the bliss, the rapture that she felt. It seemed all living creatures were sitting in glad refrain, and at his feet in adoration all creation knelt. With her, the blessed Son of God on the cross was slain, had rised again in hearts of men forevermore to reign. And reveling. A bugle pealed and the years fell away, and they were back again in the yesterday, beyond the crowded street and the blare, with Snow and Bill and the rest back over there. And as they marched, they remembered the dawn that flamed from the east, that immortal morn when the sun rose over the mountain wall and hung in the sky like a golden ball on the edge of a vast, viewless sea that shone like a mirror framed in infinity. They remembered the gleam of steel in the gorse when the hills belched lightnings, and the hoarse whine of the shrapnel and the scream of the shell filled the sky and the earth with the music of hell. When the earth had rocked and the valleys reeled back in the tragic years that pieces sealed. Far down the years came the tread of the feet of the phantom host who died when life was sweet. The sound of a blast in the morning air, a revelry from the heights of Sari Blair. And so they marched on with the old digger stride, with the deathless dead unseen at their side. Alright, I've pretty much got, that's it for here from, forgot more, one more, the last gully. I pretty much, that's it from here. Right, I have actually finished here. Oh yeah, here's one for you. Pretty much is right at the end of the book. Men, the death of man empire. Colossus built with porphyrian sweat of curling thong of whips upon the backs of slaves before the burning face of Ra. Royal Egypt, great was her fall, when Roman cohorts ground her face in dust. Monster in marble carved with stretching wings, tall towers reaching sky, built on the mud of the Euphrates, holding in the bond of kings of earth beyond her granite walls and gates of brass loomed Babylon, till Cyrus came and hewed her to the ground with fire and sword. And Rome was built of iron made to endure. Her mailed legions shook the tortured earth, and nations fell before her trumpet gust. Jerusalem the golden wept in chains with the shadow of her jasper walls, till shields of bronze clashed on the Appian way, and Gaul and German smote the seven hills. Born of the sea, the great empire came, with walls of steel that cleave the seven seas. Her greatness is the open way of truth, and freedom fair. Oppression cannot thrive beneath the English sun. Empire. Yeah, I'm allowed to do that, aren't I? Yeah, if I want to. If I want to. Go to empire, because like foolish men fight. It's only governments that go to war. Men wouldn't go to war. If you sent the government people, if the politicians had to be the first ones to fight, they wouldn't go. It's not like in the olden day where the king would always be at the front. Or yeah, no, you don't see them. They are quite happy to make decisions and send young men off to die in order to satisfy national pride. All right, that's enough. All right, here we go. I got one that I wrote. I got two that I wrote. I guess maybe a bit inspired. This one had a different title. The original title was One Story from World War One. One Story from World War One, or the One-Legged Stockman. Beauty is once around the sun, though our eyes may never comprehend. Poets sent off to war. Boys given guns and told to kill. Boys they never met. It was the year the drought broke. Pests in the wheat silo. Silver moon reflects off the lagoon. Black swans have started building nests. Marching with packs and rifles. desert warfare in the trenches, legless farm boys with bullets embedded. There was a mouse plague, run across your face in bed. The stars look very clear tonight. Days become nights, become days, blindfolded in the infirmary. Sent home on crutches, Lucky walks in the gate. Dog slinks down, snarls at the stranger. Old Bluey got bit by a taipan. Silhouette gum trees in sunset, crepuscular needle rays, one-legged stockman. Nobody ever thought he'd ride a horse. Whip cracks, dog bark, cattle turn, rivers high and rising, all those full-bellied snakes. Beauty is another trip around the sun. Gratitude is an attitude. Poet, farm boy, soldier, one-legged stockman with a whip. Billy of tea on the campfire, Johnny cakes and golden syrup. Flies buzz around the swag. Righto. Got one more for you. You see, when I grew up, and I was born in 1970, I had this grandfather who served in World War II. My parents, my father could have ended up going to Vietnam, but he was lucky his number wasn't pulled out. And as I grew up, I was told this myth that World War I was the war to end all wars. And then they had World War II. And I thought, And then, after World War II, the empire, the Anglo empire of money based in America with England and the Allies from World War II decided to keep having these skirmishes and wars all around the world. Korea, Vietnam, Nicaragua, Cuba. It just kept going. Libya, we got rid of Mr. Gaddafi. Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan. And now the monetary powers that be have decided they're going after the Ukraine. Anyway, I wrote this many years ago. It's called Legend of the Bombagund. Listen carefully. I think you might get the whole lot. The whole version, all the way to the end here. We've got a whole lot of it here. 1, 2, and 3. Yep, you're going to get the lot. Legend of the Bombagund introduction. Henceforth, the sleuthen warp was hest. No more warp, keel est. Legend of the Bombagund. Peace now reigns, but the ribs were blood. Over there in future earth, father tells his son a story. Long ago, the ribs were blood. This story will be gory. Henceforth the slough and warp was hest. No more warp, kiel est. Legend of the Bombagund. Peace now reigns, but the reefs were blood. Warrender came in a gust of whoosh. Against no warp did he push. The pushes and their ribs of blood all lay down the Bombagund. The Bombagund henceforth no gotten, but the ribs of blood are not forgotten. A peace now reigns, not the Bombagund. Warp's ribs of blood no longer run, henceforth the slough and warp will never warp. Kiel est no more ever. Legend of the Bombagund, peace now reigns, and the ribs of love. Warrender stood between the others, he said, "Hey warps, kill me, your brother." But the warps they answered, "Why? But no, there's ribs of blood upon the snow, these Bombagund no need have got, but the ribs of blood are not forgot." Warrender came to heal the earth, and the ribs now run clear rainbow birth. Henceforth they stopped the ribs of blood, and the ribs now flowing, ribs of love. Warrender stopped the Bombagund, and the ribs of blood no longer run. Tell me, Dad, what's a Bombagund? 'Twas a machine to make the ribs of blood run, son. Henceforth the slough and warp was hest. No more warp, kiel est. Legend of the Bombagund, and the ribs now flow clear rainbow love. Part 2. Bullocks flummoxed in the air, the sound of screaming everywhere, the smell of scorch upon the nose, the sprucefulness that stained the clothes. Warrender whooshed into the land. There was ribs of blood upon the sand. Warrender called, "Hey warps, yes, use this Bombagunds are killing you." The warps answered, "We don't want no more these ribs of blood, the bloody war, but we do not think that war is funny, but we've invested lots of money. How can we stop these Bombagunds so the ribs of blood no longer run?" Warrender said, "Ground them down, make a pile far from town, ground them down and make no warp, destroy Bombagunds forevermore." Well, they piled the Bombagunds up high, Giantzilla pile up to the sky. Then they took the last, biggest Bombagund, the very last unrusty one. Warrender flew above the pile, Warrender and the warps all smiled, and they dropped that last big Bombagund, the very last unrusty run. The Bombagund was nevermore. There were no ribs of blood upon the shore. They stopped and never ran again. The warps, they all became good friends. Henceforth, the slough and warp was hest. No more warp, and a pile of molten metal was left. Warrender stopped the warp somehow. They made robots, tools and homes and plough. No ribs of blood across the earth, just peace and love and new rebirth. Henceforth, they stopped the Bombagund. Warps, ribs of blood no longer run. The slough and warp was gone forever. The Bombagund kiel est no more ever. Warrender stopped the killing and fear. The Bombagunds all disappear. Warrender left when the warp was over. The ribs of blood washed from the clover. The grass was green, the snow was white. There was no more Bombagund flashes at night. The blossom cleared from the sky. Singing birds were heard up high. The acrid scorch had left the nose. The ribs were clean to wash the clothes. Henceforth, the slough and warp was hest. No more warp, kiel est. Legend of the Bombagund. Peace now reigns, and the ribs are no longer blood. Part 3. Well, you see, the warp began the warps began so long ago. No war could remember, no blood on the snow. No warp could remember how it all began, or any reason for why the ribs of blood ran. The warps were divided into two teams, the red and the blue. Ununited, it seems, Warrender could see through this fake separations of the haves and have-nots and the patriot nations. Warrender could see through the blue-red warp fear that their profits would lower if Bombagunds disappeared. The Bombagund makes all people frightened. The rivers of blood on the stove makes us very ununited. If you must kill us, kill me, Warrender said, cold. If you want blood on the sand, I'm willing to fall. I stand here between two warp teams. Blow me into pieces, make me into baked beans. The blue-reds, warps and red warps, why are you fighting? You're human like me, why ununited? My blood, it runs red and blue in my veins. We all bleed the same, we all feel the pains. The sleuthen warp was Hess, not grand. The blood washed from the snow and the sand. The solution simple, it's called not harm. Warrender yelled, it's do no harm. Not harm the people on the earth. Not harm each other and new rebirth. Henceforth, not harm. All sit united. In circles, not selfish fighting. Yeah. Henceforth, no blood be spilled on ground. We'll sit in love all gathered round. No warps, no more, no Bombagund. And the rivers of blood will no longer run. Well, hence the sleuthen warp, hence now. No more kill it somehow. Destroy every single Bombagund so the rivers of blood no longer run. Henceforth, the sleuthen warp was hexed. No more warp, kill est. Legend of the Bombagund. Peace now reigns, and the rivers are love. That's it. All right. The end of Chillin Tuesday on this ANZAC Day, the 25th of April, 2023. Well, tomorrow night we've got Wednesday Words here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. Coming up in August, yes, we've got the Australian Poetry Slam, so stay tuned for the heat of that, which is 16th and 17th of August. And then in November, the festival as well. Woo! Okay, Thundercloud, boom, didn't hurt a bit. Washed away the garbage, leaving behind rainbows on this ANZAC Day. I will see you later from the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. Boom.